The following production is brought to you by the Talkin Buds Leafs Show.
Here we go, Talkin Buds Leafs Show. 3 games into the season edition. I'm really straddling the line of it's early, but I've got some takes. I don't know about you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of at that point right now, to be honest with you. So there's no better forum on planet Earth than the Talkin Buds Leafs Show to get those early takes out of you.
So I thought a different way we could do this is let's go through the lineup that lost on Monday night to the Chicago Blackhawks, and we'll go kind of through each line and each player and kind of give our early take on how they are playing and just our opinions of the roster that Sheldon Keefe has essentially put out there for 3 straight games, with the exception of Joe Woll and Ilya Samsonov switching up the 3rd game. So, obviously, first line, Bertuzzi, Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner. I mean, Auston Matthews, 6 goals in 3 games. He looks like the hockey player that we all want him to be, hoped he would be, utterly dominant. You could make a case that his best game was the game he didn't score against the Chicago Blackhawks. He had 18 shot attempts.
Oh, wow.
See
Yeah.
that?
Listening.
He had 18 shot attempts, and he was just all around it all night. And there's nothing you can really say about Auston Matthews at this point. There's nothing more you need from him. He's carried them, essentially. Him and William Nylander, who we'll talk about in a second. Those 2 guys have carried them through 3 games this far.
That's a fair statement you make. And my expectation for this guy was pretty fucking simple. It was, you're now the highest paid player in the league, so you got to play better than you did last year. You got to play like basically the highest paid player in the league, other than the greatest hockey player who's ever suited up the skates, 97. But he's done that. He's been every bit that. He's exceeded expectation early on, and he's the guy driving the bus, and that's what he needs to be doing for this team to win. So I think it's a phenomenal start for him. Like we said the last episode, when a guy like that gets out to a start like he did, that's just huge for him. Huge for his confidence. Huge for the old statistics sheet. It's a good start for 34.
His performance in the Saturday night game against Minnesota after getting a hat trick against the Habs was it was fantastic. And it was like I said, this is what you envision, or what we all envision him being, and the type of hockey player we wanted him to be, and that he has become. And it's just proof that last year he was not 100% healthy, and zero complaints when it comes to Auston Matthews. Mitch Marner, 3 points, all of them assists. I don't think Mitch Marner's been bad, but he's been fine. That's the way I'll put it. I think there's another gear for him to get to. He looks a little bit to me like playoff Mitch Marner, a little bit like not as dominant, kind of on the periphery. I think he has another level to get to. And I think I think William Nylander being so dominant this early is shining a light on that as well.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail. What you just said there is exactly what I was going to say. He's just not the front and center guy right now, and he's not even number 2. It's not like he's played bad, but it's just there's 2 guys playing more dominant and are demanding the puck more than he is. So it's I like how can you cannot doubt this guy in regular season play. Like you just can't. So like yeah, he doesn't have 6 goals in 3 games, but this guy will get his 90 points. And
yeah, he's been like I said, he's been fine. Like I'm not going to sit here and say Mitch Marner hasn't been very good. He's been fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't even waste any more time on him. He'll get his points. He'll do his thing. He'll play the penalty kill. He'll play the power play. He'll be okay.
Tyler Bertuzzi, 1 goal, 1 point, 10 penalty minutes. I think this guy's been pretty mid, to be honest with you. Like, I think he's having a difficult time acclimating. This is going to be a common theme as we kind of run through the roster here. I think he's having a difficult time acclimating to what his role should be on that line and where he needs to be with the two guys he's playing with. Another guy who, like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's been awful, but I think mid is the best way to describe him. Like, if we're going to talk about potentially shuffling around the lineup as they head out on this road trip, moving Tyler Bertuzzi down the lineup is not something I would be opposed to doing at this point.
I think as we go down the list, it's going to be kind of this more the same with a couple guys. I think Tyler and maybe a couple other guys are finding out that, like, when there's a situation for this hockey team, there's 4 forwards who are going over the boards, and you're just not one of them. So you're just going to have to find a way, even though he's getting first line minutes. So it's not like he's missing out on opportunities.
Max Domi's, you can put Max Domi in that category as well.
I mean, I didn't watch every Red Wing game. I had barely watched any because I barely have enough time to watch 82 Leaf games. But I would be interested to see a Red Wings fan comment on, like, if he was one of those guys who was always hopping over the boards for those opportunities. And if you're coming here and you're looking for points, you better get them 5-on-5 because you're not seeing power play time very often because there's 4 forwards going over the boards and you're not one of them. And I think with him, it's just he looks a little slow off the gate, speed wise. I didn't know. I never really gauged him as a skater, but he's a mid skater. But he's a skilled guy. He'll figure it out. I'm not worried about him at all.
Well, okay, I'm gonna kind of deviate for a minute because we just went through the first line and, like, Tavares and Nylander, like, we'll talk about them in a second, but you just kind of hit on, I like the point you just made about Bertuzzi there, which is, like, you have to find a role because in a tough situation, you're not going over the boards. There's 4 guys going over the boards, and there's 2 other guys I'd like to loop into that conversation. First one is Calle Jarnkrok. Why the fuck is he on the second line, Sheldon? Like, I do not understand, because Calle Jarnkrok ties into Max Domi. I think Max Domi has really, really struggled out of the gate here. And Sheldon, like, the lineup comes out last night ahead of the game against Chicago, and there's Max Domi down on the third line with Minten and Knies, who are, like, kind of glued to each other at the moment. And, like, it's just, that's not. Max Domi is proving that he struggles defensively. He really struggles defensively. He is not, his defensive prowess, and as what Sheldon always says, taking care of the puck is not his strong suit, okay? So why are you putting him lower in the lineup and giving him potentially more defensive responsibility? You can make the same argument for Matthew Knies as well. Do you see the common theme here? There's a lot of players in the mid to bottom 6 who are in bizarre roles because this coach, who is still here, is falling on his laurels and doing the same thing he always does, which is leaning on his horses, and I get that, but is completely lost when it comes to how to deploy his middle to bottom 6 guys. So if you're going to look at Bertuzzi, Jarnkrok, Domi, Knies, like, all these guys, they're all struggling to, like, establish themselves in the lineup because Sheldon's going to Sheldon.
I mean, that's what were we really expecting? Like, it's,
well, yeah. Well, I'm crying over spilt milk.
I know, but, like, it's we know they just run these guys out there. It's just what I said about Bertuzzi. It's like there's 4 forwards who run the show on this hockey team. That's just the way it is, and it's going to be up to these guys to figure out ways to contribute without being on the ice so much.
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys, like Minten and Knies, they're rookies. Like, they're getting their feet wet. I don't think that's the greatest combo. We'll get there. But it's like, Domi, you're not getting out there in any sort of offensive opportunity. Like, you're just not. So you better find a way to shape your game to fit this system, or else you're going to continue to struggle. And I also think he just looks like he doesn't have his feet under him yet, or he doesn't have his legs under him. Like, I mean, people talk about how long the preseason is, but clearly it wasn't long enough, or guys don't play enough, because some of these guys look like they could use an extra couple of games to get their feet under them, or maybe that the intensity of just the regular season picking up is a factor. But yeah, like, it's just for all these bottom roll guys, like, they just have to find a way to contribute with the ice time that they're going to get and the roles that they're going to get.
I just don't know how you do that in Sheldon Keefe's system. Like, I don't know how you elevate guys with the way he deploys his lineup. I just don't know. And if you're a player like a Bertuzzi or a Domi or a Knies, I could totally understand why you would get frustrated playing for this guy. I could totally understand it. Like, it's just, I'm not a Sheldon Keefe guy. I'm like, we're not going to go down that road. Like we ranted about what a dumbass decision we both thought it was to bring him back. So it just kind of is what it is at this point. But yeah, anyways, we got way off the rails because that's how angry he makes me sometimes.
We can go through this list all we want, but a lot of these guys are going to fit in.
That's what I mean. That's why I kind of got off.
It's like we can go through player for player, but at some point we're going to be saying the same thing about all these players.
Yes.
Like right now, that third line is lost.
Yes.
Like, what is that third line? Like, I know they're giving Fraser Minten a shot, and hasn't really blown the doors off, but now you're starting to understand why.
But again, Sheldon, like, what do you want from Fraser Minten? Do you want him to be a defensive sort of like responsible third line center, or do you want him to contribute to more offense? When you put Knies and Domi on his wing, to me, that signals, okay, we'd like more offense out of this third line, because those two guys, like, that's not a shutdown third line combination. But then the way like I said, these guys can't get into the game and can't execute properly and can't totally get their feet under them because he's running Matthews and Marner out there every second shift.
Well, that's just how it is. Like, these guys, they're gonna have to figure it out. They're gonna I mean, O-Dog touched on Overdrive. Like, I believe that they should give, like, why is Calle Yarncroke playing on the second line?
Thank you.
Like, that is one thing. It's like, I like Calle Yarncroke. He's a half decent hockey player, but like, I don't need to see this guy on that line. Like, put Matthew Knies on that line, please, and just give him a shot there, because I think you're missing out on his like offensive prowess. He can't drive a line on his own. Obviously, he's a rookie. It's his first full 82 games. And that line's really struggling. And I just don't need to see Calle Yarncroke on the second line. I really don't.
Like I said, Sheldon. So let's just touch quickly on the other parts of the second line. William Nylander, like,
that gets better every hockey game.
Like, you know what? I'd like to. We've made a long-standing tradition on this show of, when you say something, if you're proven wrong, come on here and eat your crow. I've been very vocal about how the Tavares and Nylander pairing has not really, I haven't loved it. It looks much better to start this season, and that is, honestly, no offense, John, that is purely because William Nylander is an absolute force of nature out there on the forecheck and getting the puck back. He did all the work to get Tavares that goal against the Blackhawks. He is like, this guy's a $10 million winger at this point, and it's just, I heard a great point made on the radio today, though, because there's a lot of people who are calling, just give him the money, but he's kind of playing motivated and pissed off right now, and he's dominant because of it. So there is, and one thing we know about Willie is he's Joe Cool. He's Mr. Super Lax. He's Mr. like, whatever, man. So if you give him the contract, are you then worried that he would
no, and there's no way to prove this. There's no way to quantify this. I honestly don't think it would make a difference if you gave him the money or not. I think he's past that point in his career. I think he's like a more mature guy right now. What is he, 27, going to be turning 28? Like, the guy, I don't think that matters. I think last year he proved he was every damn, like, he knows what he's worth, and he's just proving it. And I don't know. Like, there's nothing else to say. The guy's just unbelievable. Like, there's nobody who can just grab the puck and make something happen quicker than that guy, even over Matthews. Like, Matthews has the opportunistic guy in front of the net who just always finds that ability to put the puck in the net. But there's nobody who can grab the puck, turn around, and just change the flow of the play quicker than that guy can.
No,
he's just unbelievable.
You kind of said this last week, and like I just said, Nylander's really driving that line, and he is. But like, look at this. You pull up the Leafs point totals here. 3 guys with 6 points: Matthews, Nylander, Tavares.
Yeah,
he's always there.
Yeah.
Like, he's always there. He's always getting his points. He's still elite at that.
Absolutely. And like look at the guys up there. Like look at the top 4 forwards in points. Like it's
It's the big four.
the big four. And just like I cannot drive this home more. If you are a role player on this hockey team, you better figure it out quick because you're not getting on the ice, man. These guys are on the ice every second of the game. Any opportunity to score, if they pull their goalie, like they're on the power play, the unit's out there for 2 minutes.
Yeah, there was multiple times.
Like, so if you're Max Domi, who's a big talking point in this city right now, you got to change your game because you're not getting out there. You're not.
Yeah.
You got to find that role on the team. If you want to be in Toronto so bad and be Ty's son and be beloved, like you're not doing it by putting 80 points up on the board here. Like
well, I've said his role has to be a water bug, a rat, someone who pisses the other team off, some guy who's in on scrums.
He hasn't done any of that.
No, he hasn't done that. And that, to me, if I'm looking at him and I'm going, what can you do to earn yourself more ice time to get you out there with these guys to the point that you're making? That's what you have to do. Like, you have to be way scrappier than what he's being. Like, way scrappier.
But at the same, let's not.
3 games.
I know it's a podcast and it's not like we're going to come on here and be like, it's like we got to talk about something. Everyone's giving their early takes on the season. That's just what you do. But he's going to find his way. It's just, it is challenging again. Just like you're not getting that ice time you usually see on this team, and you better adjust. And I think he is going to adjust, hopefully. And he just looks a little behind. He just looks like a step behind. I don't know.
He looks like a guy who's trying to figure out his role and his place on the team.
Yeah.
We touched on Knies a little bit and Minten, but let's talk about them together as a pair now. They're like 2 rookies who they've been kind of stuck together. I'm with you 100%. I'd love to see Knies get a look on the second line, even on the first line. If you wanted to put him up with Matthews and Marner for a period or 2, I wouldn't say no to that and move Bertuzzi down. Like if you'd like to go Knies on the first line, shift Bertuzzi down to the second line, and shift Yarncroc down to the third line, then that's what I think you should do. Or move Domi up. I don't know.
No, I don't think it matters playing with Matthews. I think Nylander and Matthews are on equal footing, in my opinion. Like you put him with either of those two, and something's going to happen. I'd prefer to put him with Nylander, to be honest with you, because there's nobody making things happen more than Willie. Like that's why I want him on that line. Like Austin's getting his cookies, but Willie's doing everything. Yeah. So I mean, he's skating it. So if you're a guy who's not skating with the puck, and Knies is not skating with the puck, I find him on his ass a lot actually.
Yep.
Then get him on a line with a guy who's constantly skating and transitioning into the O-zone and get him in front of the net and use his body and get him some opportunities. That's what Tavares is doing right now. All John has to do right now is get open. 6 points.
You look at the game sheet and he's always on it at the end. You're right. Talk about Minten a little bit. Like I think Fraser Minten to me looks like a rookie who's trying to get acclimated into the NHL game. I think he has a really nice NHL career ahead of him, but I think he won't be here after 9 games at this point, which then opens up to the debate of who is going to play third line center.
And here I'm circling back from preseason discussion. You understand why they were trying to force Nylander at center now, because it's just like
their depth there is an issue because
it's like he's not even close right now, in my opinion. I know it's early and like if he doesn't work out,
I don't think he looks bad. Like I don't watch him and
they're not. That line is doing nothing.
Oh, exactly. No,
that line is doing
what I mean.
Nothing. Like they're not.
He doesn't. I don't look at him every night and go. I love if I say every night. It's been 3 fucking games. I don't look at him and go, oh man, he's getting beat. He looks like he's lost out there. I don't think that, but I do think like he's trying to get acclimated, and he's not necessarily being effective. And I think they kind of brought him up here. He's getting a look. I think listen, this is a kid who I think if they hold on to him has a bright future in this organization. I really think that, but they gotta figure out what they're going to do. The only other name that comes to mind potentially for that role is Pontus. So maybe after the 9 games, they give Pontus a look there. But yeah, I think if you want to get the version of Knies that you saw towards the end of last year and into the playoffs, you got to get him away from Minten. And I love your point about put him with Nylander because Nylander is cooking right now. And all he's got to do is
put me with Nylander right now, and I'm sure I could find a point.
Yeah. So yeah, 100%. So yeah. I think Fraser Minten will be hard pressed to make it past the 9-game mark. As we move to the fourth line, here's something I've been really excited to talk about because, to no one's surprise, the debate around Ryan Reaves lives on social media. And it's like any debate that this fan base has about anything. It's absolutes. You've got people who are tying their identity to either side of this argument. You've got the Pokemon collectors who are over here saying, this guy is the worst hockey player I've ever seen. He loses his minutes every single time. When he's on the ice, all of the numbers do a nosedive. He's a terrible, terrible hockey player. Then you've got the other people who tie their identity to the other side that are like, he's the greatest thing that's ever happened to this team, and they're playing differently because of him, and which I don't necessarily disagree with. And the one thing I will say for the pro Ryan Reaves crowd is the team's franchise player went out of his way on Saturday night after the game to credit him for changing the tone of the game by fighting Marcus Foligno. And then so much so that he gave him the belt afterwards. That video clip was all over the Leafs Instagram of him saying, like, turning it around for the boys or whatever, and gave Reaves the belt. I think the deployment of Ryan Reaves is a really interesting conversation because two things can be true. The guy is not a very good hockey player. Like, he's not. But he does make a difference. And how many times have we sat here and complained and cried and banged this table about how fucking soft this team is? And now you've got legitimately the toughest guy in the league out there that actually did change the tone and vibe of the game on Saturday night against Minnesota.
Yeah, this is a very touchy subject for me. For all you, what you call them, Pokemon collectors out there who want to just continue to hate on the guy, just do you hate on him? But I'm looking at the dudes who cry about this team not being tough enough, and I don't want to hear a peep for them in terms of you can't have this guy on the ice, because it's like, what do you want? Like, there's not a lot of Tom Wilsons out there who can play in your top six and be tough. Like, you wanted someone to come and set the tone for your team. You went out and got the toughest guy. Like, he is what he is. To me, this team has way bigger issues than who's getting. What was his ice time? What was his ice time last game?
His average time on ice is 8 minutes.
Yeah, we're crying about a guy who plays 8 minutes a night. Like, really? This whole first part of this conversation, we've talked about how there's 4 forwards going over the boards. Like, why are we worried about a guy who plays 8 goddamn minutes a night?
And when he's on the ice, the impact he's having is helping the best players play well. And Ryan Reaves, he gives the analytics crowd fits because you can't quantify that in a number. And I think a lot of people who are married to analytics, they've like I said earlier, they've made that their identity as a fan. And that's great. Like, you and I are not anti-analytics guys. We're not. But I think that crowd gets very hung up on him because you can't, like, Auston Matthews, watch the video clip. Like, listen to what he said after the game on Wednesday. He directly, they felt that on the bench. He went out and he fought Marcus Foligno, and that opened up space a little more, and that made the best players play a little taller and gave them a little more confidence. And you can't quantify that in a metric. So we're sitting here talking about Sheldon's deployment of the lineup. This is another way that he's got to be kind of more creative with how he uses Reaves. Like, I think Ryan Reaves is at a point as a hockey player where that's all he's here for. Like, he's not here to do anything other than lay a few hits and punch some guys in the head. That's literally what he's here for.
I'm just not going to waste my time on a guy who averages 8 minutes a night. Like, we haven't even gotten to the biggest problem with this hockey team yet. Like, that's like this is ridiculous. Like, if they're in the second round of the playoffs and he's out there and he's a liability, fine, we can have this conversation. Like, hey, what a great opportunity to get Max Domi on the ice more. How about Reeves sits a shift and you get Domi out on there on the fourth line getting some more ice? Like this is the stupid. What a waste of time this conversation is. Like, I'm sorry. I've been in the camp of they need tougher guys. I'd want him in the lineup for 82 fucking games. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. The analytics crowd could suck it. I don't care. It matters to me that he's out there. I don't care if it matters to you. It matters to me.
Well,
so I'm not going to complain about a guy who plays 8 minutes a night. Like, get a life.
Any ex-player will tell you that it's important, the role that he brings.
Yeah.
It is.
Get a life. Like,
we got to move on to the
bigger
defense
issues.
here. We've already done 25 minutes. We got to move on to the defense here. Gregor and Kampf.
Whatever.
Yeah, Gregor's fine. He's fast.
Again, what are we going to do? Like,
David Kamp's
classic,
just a guy. Like,
classic Leaf fan base. Just get hung up on guys who play 8 minutes a night. Awesome.
Okay, let's talk about the defense pairings. Morgan Riley is Morgan Riley. He looks like Morgan Riley. He's been fine. Like, I don't think Morgan Riley's been bad. TJ Brody, I don't think has been great, but I also think that there's been far worse defensemen on this team than him. Like, I think as a top pair, they've been okay. Your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I mean, just again, I don't even know if I want to go through defenseman. It's just
No, we're just gonna go through the pairings.
yeah, like, I just don't. It's just overall, it's just
It's bad. It's not good.
why like this is.
It's not good.
Yeah, like
It's not good. Like
they're fine. They're fine, but I'm not.
The McCabe and Klingberg pairing. Klingberg is such an interesting player because he's like up there with the top point getters on the team, and I think he brings a lot of offensive upside. Like, he's a big upgrade at quarterbacking the power play over Morgan Riley. Like, he's way more creative and way more of a scoring threat than Morgan Riley. But man, is he a defensive? He's not great defensively. And then they've put Jake McCabe with him, who I don't know what the hell Jake McCabe's doing out there.
Bobby Orr out there.
Oh my God, Jake McCabe is running all over the ice. He's up in the
Mr. Pinch Boy.
Yeah, he's up in the offensive zone. He's just like,
like,
what,
buddy,
dude,
like,
buddy,
what-
what are you doing? Like,
chill.
what are you doing? Like,
Less is more.
yes, like Jake McCabe really needs to like figure out, again, another guy who's kind of struggling to figure out like, what should I be doing when I go out there on every shift.
And we do complain about how this team didn't get enough offense out of their defense last year. So it's like I get the effort, but like I don't want to see it. I don't wanna see it.
Not from Jake McCabe.
Yeah, I don't wanna see
like you will like I look to Riley and Klingberg as guys to contribute defensively, and the other four guys like
less
just
is more.
play your position. Giordano and Liljegren. I mean, Giordano at this point he's going to be a third pairing guy. He's fine. I just look at a guy like Liljegren and I'm kind of like, when are you going to be a top four?
Never. Simple answer.
Really? You're just writing him off forever as a potential
we
top
can go.
four.
We go through all these guys. They're all fine, but it's just at the end of the day, like it's good enough to get through a regular season. But anyone complaining about the decor rate, it's we all knew this. We all knew what was going to happen,
and we're all anticipating. Like, and we know Tree Living knows it too. And
I said at the start of the season, it's good enough to get to the playoffs. Their decor is not going to stop them from finishing second in the division, getting over 100 points. But it's just. Like, that's just it's not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. I'm sorry, it's really not.
Yeah, no, it's Ryan. It's nowhere close. And
yeah,
in the defense's defense. I thought as a whole defensively against Chicago, they were brutal. Like all the
3 games
all the forwards are too. There's no structure. There's no everybody's doing the thing where they're cheating in the neutral zone. Like the Blackhawks just dominated the neutral zone.
Yeah.
On Monday night, and like everybody just needs to get back to playing a more structured game and recognize that, like, you know what, your blue line is not the best, and you need to be playing sound team defense. But is that this team's identity?
Yeah, exactly. I was
Right?
literally about to say that. It's like it's classic Leafs hockey.
Yeah.
Here. Like everything we're talking about right now is it's a fucking rewind from every season we've covered.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing, man.
Yeah, because part of me is like,
isn't good enough. We're complaining about the bottom six mix, and then we have question marks about the goaltending. Like it's the same thing, and we're here running the four forwards over the boards constantly, and they're getting their points or whatever. But like really, as long as you have the core four intact, like the formula is kind of going to be the same for this team. Like it's just their D's not good enough. Their bottom six has question marks. People want them deployed differently. And the goaltending's been sus. Like it's just
and the like because the cap hasn't gone up yet, you've got so much money dedicated to these four guys that you're trying to do patchwork in your bottom six with rookies and guys on cheap contracts and wanting them to sort of play above what they're paid and which is hard for them to do when you're running the big four guys out every other shift. And it's
at the same time, it's like they're just stuck in a formula.
Yeah.
Like it's just, but at the same time, it's like they're gonna make the play.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, when the Blackhawks game started and I was watching, it was very early on where I just like slapped my hand down and I was like, I'm ready for April. I'm not like last year. I found I got like into it a bit in the regular season. I was watching a bit of that game and I'm like, here we are complaining about the same things we've been complaining about for years, but it's just like we're here. Like let's just fast forward. Like this team's good enough to make the play.
Here. Let's fast forward to the trade deadline.
Yeah, like
and see what Tree's got up his sleeve.
That's not very exciting for a podcast that is going twice a week, and we're just gonna give same takes every week. But it's just like I don't know. I was just watching it, being like, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like here, like let's just.
Well, no, that's not true. Okay, hold on. Let's talk.
It's all a tryout for April.
Yeah,
like that's what it is basically. It's like Max Domi not contributing 3 games in really doesn't matter. It's like you just need to find your role and stay healthy in time to contribute in April.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah. And Nylander and Matthews being so dominant, it's like that's fucking awesome.
That's nice to see though.
Yeah,
like it is like to me, like one thing that was missing from last year was Auston Matthews getting 100 points and over 100 points and 60 goals. Like that's something I do want to see. But like what? Who cares really what Tyler Pertuzzi does? Look, he shows up in April. He's a legend. None of this matters.
Yeah.
Like it's like they're good enough to get there. Like it's just and it's gonna be week after week after week of just talking about.
Well, that's why you and I always say like we had
third line.
We had a couple people comment on one person on YouTube and then another person on Instagram. Being like, where's like, I think they thought that we were going to do one after every game. And I was like, I don't think we can do that. Like you and I say all the time.
It's just the most redundant thing of all
You and
time.
I say all the time that like we tip our hat to people who cover this team on a daily basis on sports talk radio because it's like, I could not sit here every day and talk about the same shit.
It literally is the same thing.
Yeah.
Unless they go on, like, there's the odd time where they go on an absolute heater and you got nothing bad to say and it's all hunky-dory. There's times where the goalies are on fire and they carry you and you're pumped about the run they're on and you hope that it happens in April. And then there's times where they suck and they go on a bit of a, actually they didn't really do that last year. Actually, they didn't really go on a bad losing streak, but in years past there's been losing streaks and then you go off on everyone sucks. Like it's just the cycle of the season. And here we go again. Game 3, complaining about the third line. God.
Hold on, before we go, let's talk about the goalies. Because I don't think Samsonov, we talked about him after the Habs game. I thought he was brutal. I thought he played okay in the third period of the game against Minnesota, and then like he made some big saves. And Woll, you have to say Woll now. He doesn't want to be called Wall. He wants to be called Woll.
I'll call him whatever the hell I want to call him.
I thought he brought his usual Joe Woll poise, where he looked confident and kind of steady. But again, like you get a good scoring chance, it's in the net. Like
I thought he looked fine. I mean, here's my opinion. I'm not for Samsonov. I'm not disrespecting the only guy who's won a playoff series for this team since Eddie Belfour. Like I'm giving the guy some leeway here. Like that's the respect he gets from me. You win a playoff series for this team, you have my respect and you have my patience in getting your form back from the offseason. And I thought Woll was okay. I thought he looked good actually. Like yeah, whatever. They couldn't stop the big breakaway.
But your teams.
I think he could have looked a lot worse.
Yeah, and your team.
I thought he looked steady. I thought he looked confident. The team sucked.
Yeah,
they weren't scoring on the other guy. Soderblom.
That's another thing.
Like Dom Hasek in the Blackhawks uniform.
Another thing. Some guy named Arvid Soderblom comes in here and looks like Dominic.
Waugh.
Yeah, he looks like Dominic Hasek.
Yeah. Like,
oh my God. You and I are always open about how we don't watch a ton of out-of-market hockey because we watch 82 Leaf games, and watching another hockey team that we don't care about sounds like torture. But this always seems to happen to the Leafs where it's like some guy named Arvid Soderblom comes in here and looks like the second coming.
It's either a goalie or it's a player. Like that's just what Scotiabank Arena brings out in people.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of so basically our assessment of the team through 3 games is it's the same.
It's the same thing. It's the same. Like think about what is really surprising about any of this conversation we've had. Like it's just there's nothing. It's the same thing. It's what everybody was talking about. It's bottom 6 not being deep enough, but also like you got to score in the limited opportunities you get. It's the D-core not being good enough. What did we talk about all offseason? The D-core not being good enough. And then the goalies. It's like Samsonov won a playoff series, which means a lot to me, but most people don't trust him. And then you got a rookie. It's like, and then the top 4, they better score. Like that's it.
Yeah. It is
what's exciting? Like what's new about it? It's the same thing.
It is the same thing.
See you on Sunday.
Yeah.
See you on Sunday to talk about Callie Yarncroke going down to the 3rd line.
Oh my God. Callie Yarncroke. Yeah. I mean, if you drew it up, like we did sit here in the training camp in the weeks leading up to the season during training camp, we did sit here going, well, I don't know what the bottom 6 is going to look like, and the defense looks kind of sus, and who knows what the goaltending is going to be, and now here we are 3 games in, and you're right.
Yeah, like what could be different about this season? Like the top players go like kind of Draisaitl, McDavid point production. Yeah. That's something that could be different. They actually win the division, which I know some people are like, it doesn't matter. Blah, blah, blah. It matters to me. Like win the division. Yeah. Like come on, this division isn't what it used to be. Even though the Bruins haven't lost a game yet. Bruins suck. haven't lost a game yet.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done with that.
I wonder if they're playing right now.
Although you and I were 2 people who didn't sit here and say, well, the Bruins won't be like. I know enough now to not write off the Boston Bruins. Okay, like that's not something we're gonna do.
Yeah, the Bruins suck. Yeah, I haven't lost a game.
No. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I do stand by my complaining of Sheldon Keefe though. I think I'm not a fan, and I just don't trust the guy. I think he's always gonna go back to what he's comfortable with, which is like bizarre lineup choices a la Callie Yarncroke on the second line, and just I think your point, the best point you have made in this episode, hands down, is if you're not one of these big 4 guys, you have to every second you're on the ice, you got to be winning your minutes every second. Or
you got to just adjust your, like Max Domi, you're not getting 70 points, buddy. Like Tyler Bertuzzi's the only guy who has the opportunity because of the 5-on-5 minutes he's gonna get. But like if you're Max Domi, you really gotta look yourself in the mirror and figure out what you're doing.
Yeah,
because you're not getting out there.
So before we do come back on Sunday with a 2 big games. Thursday night against the Florida Panthers, Saturday night against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Great.
The Lightning are another team that we're sitting here going.
They're not. Their goaltending is too sus.
Yeah, it is too sus. But I still think they'll still play them tough. Tanner Jeannot is going to be looking for Ryan Reaves.
It's the regular season. Like anybody can beat anybody on any given night. Like that's the regular season.
See you Sunday.
See you Sunday.
But seriously,
G-Core isn't good enough.
The bottom
nobody's going anywhere.
Well, because you think about it, like Hayes was saying this tonight, and it's like, duh. It's like, and not duh to him, like, duh, like, yeah, he's right. Like, is this the same, like, it's the same Kyle Dubas team. Like, it's the same, like, yes, you've brought in other different pieces and, like, different types of hockey players, but this team is built around 4 guys. This team is going to go where those 4 guys, 5 if you want to throw Riley in there, take them. And that's it. That's it. And you need to constantly try and find players that you can bring in at minimal salary. Like if you look at the guys they picked up at the deadline last year, like some retained salary to come in here and contribute and win their minutes when the big 4 offensive players are not out there. It's that simple.
To me, like those guys, I'm sick of this guy.
Yeah, I know it's over. We've overstayed our welcome, and now we're going in circles. And when we start to go in circles, that's when I am like, okay, it's time to
done with this. I'm bored.
Thanks very much for checking us out, everybody. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below. We are going to be back again on Sunday. We are on the 2 days a week. Thank you to all the new subscribers and all the people who watched last week and leave the comments. Love the comments. If you're listening to the audio version, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review. Every little bit helps.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. We will see you guys on Sunday afternoon.